Hey, what's good, everybody? You already know it's Noah here, and today I'm very excited to announce that I'm going to be joining another draft league. This is going to be the OGDL Season 2. So, if you've been following me for a bit, you'll know that I actually just started playing draft this year, and OGDL Season 1 was actually my first ever draft league, and I was very lucky to join such an incredible community and really be in just such a great league. And got to give thanks to Owen for that. Awesome guy. But yeah, here I am reprising my role in the OGDL for Season 2, and I'm going to be in the Metagross division this time. So we're going to be doing some power rankings of all of the teams in the Metagross division, and today I brought on a very special guest to help me out with that. We got Thriller, aka Thriller96, aka Thrill Shocker 96 Hedgehog, aka Draft League GOAT that I really respect. Go ahead and say hi to the people, Thriller.
Okay, thank you so much for that. That means a lot. But what's up, everybody? It's your boy Thriller here. And at first, I thought you were gonna be like, "Oh, I got lucky because I'm a bad player." Like, no, says the man that was dominating and then everything else, and he was gonna be saying he was a lucky player. I go bull on that. But what's up, everyone? It's good to be here.
Oh, yeah. Great to have you on, Thriller. And everybody, please, please, please go subscribe to Thriller. I'm going to leave links to him wherever I can in this video, everywhere around the video, stuff like that. He recently hit 100 subs, and we're just going to try and push him as far as he can go. So go ahead and sub to him. Do that right away. Do that right now. If you don't do that right now, do it at the end of the video. Leave a like on all of his videos, all that good stuff. All right, we're going to go ahead and start ranking these teams. It's going to be pretty straightforward. We're just going to go through the teams, kind of go through the mons on them, just note everything about them, that kind of stuff, and then just weigh all of the advantages, disadvantages, pros, cons. And Thriller is going to give like a ranking out of 10. I'm going to do like a tier list ranking. And then I also have a community poll that I made where the community members could rank the Pokemon. So we can do a community ranking too. So we're going to have 3 different rankings from 3 different sources. So you're going to see a few different opinions. And speaking of opinions, just want to say, if you're watching this and you're playing in this league and your team isn't at the top, or we have some, I guess, criticisms on your team, just keep in mind these are our opinions. We aren't in your heads when you're drafting. We don't know what's going through your minds, and you could have really good ideas with what you're doing, and we might not see it. So if we rank you low, it's not like to trash talk. It's not like we're not like trashing on you. We're not saying like you're bad at Pokemon or anything like that. It's just we might not see the vision of everything going on. And I will say, like, I did like all of the teams here. I know my tier list is gonna go down to D tier, and that would equate to like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. Honestly, like, I don't think I'd rate any of these teams below a 5 out of 10. I think all of them do have their merits. I think you guys there's potential for all of these teams. So yeah, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into it. Starting with BC Solgaleo, coached by Grassguard. So we've got Gouging Fire, we've got Regieleki, we've got Enamorus. Regieleki is Terra, by the way. This season is an open Terra format, so every team picks a Terra captain. There are a few bans. And then the Terra captain can be any Terra type, just as long as that type is displayed at the start of the battle. So Terra Regieleki, which by the way is very scary. We've got Enamorus, Hisuian Lilligant, Slowking, Cleavor, Revavroom, Ninetales, Golurk, and Honchkrow. So right off the bat, we see the first pick was Gouging Fire. And I will say, I know Grassguard was a sub coach, and I think the original coach dropped out like during the drafting process, or like after the first pick. So I don't think Gouging Fire was actually Grassguard's first pick. That was a coach before him. But everything after Gouging Fire he picked. We got Terra Regieleki right after that, which is really, really fun. I know Thriller drafted Regieleki in his last run of the OGDL, so I think he can attest to Regieleki being a good mon. I had Enamorus in my last run of OGDL, and I can attest to that being really good. And we just see like a pretty common theme of Sun here. Like we've got Ninetales, the Sunsetter. We've got Hisuian Lilligant to take advantage of Chlorophyll. Gouging Fire is going to be proto boosted. And yeah, it looks honestly like not 100% synergizing in the Sun, because we do see the Slowking here. And part of the big appeal of Slowking is the slow pivot with chilly reception. If Slowking pivots out with that, it's going to be putting up snow instead of sun. But other than that, I think I kind of see the vision here. There isn't a lot of removal either. Like Regieleki's the only spinner, and it is a very frail spinner, so it's not gonna like switching in on any attacks. And then getting a spin off with it is kind of, I don't want to say a waste of a turn, but there are other Pokemon that benefit more from spinning than getting like a speed boost and getting rid of hazards than Regieleki would, because Regieleki a lot of the time would rather like fire off a really strong electric attack. We see Cleavor, which is actually a mon that I really like in draft, just because like in OU there's just a lot of common stuff that switch in on it and resist it, like Great Tusk, Corviknight, Landorus Therian, stuff like that. Then not every team in a draft league is going to have stuff like that. So Cleavor, I feel like, is good in draft. Gets up Stealth Rocks and attacks while doing it. Good momentum with U-turn. Pretty nice Scarfer. Revavroom is something I had in my last OGDL season. I like that. It's got pivoting options. It can lay up Toxic Spikes. It's a grounded poison type. You know how it goes. Yeah. I guess, Thriller, do you want to give some of your thoughts on this team?
Yes, sir. And like you did say, I did have Regieleki last season. It honestly was a very good Terra Captain. I just got a little unlucky with it in some games where it got crit, getting into momentum. And I think what's really cool about having a mon like Lecky as your Terra Captain, I looked at a match last season and my opponent literally had nothing for normal spam. So I literally brought a Choice Banded, Terra Normal, all normal type move Regieleki without any electric moves at all, because I liked the value, and it forced my opponent to have to bring Steel for their Terra Captain on one of their mons, which honestly gave me more of an advantage than a disadvantage. So I think that's a really good value, especially with something like Regieleki, which can go physical or special. And for the rest of this team, I know, and a little bit of spoilers, we actually tried recording this on my video, and my recording stopped somehow, which F recordings, yeah, you know how to say, but so we already kind of know some of these teams, but we're still going to give you our thoughts and opinions and breakdowns with this. But I do agree. I think, honestly, if he picked up Alolan Sandslash to pair with Slowking, I actually think this makes this team a lot more threatening, because you get kind of dual weather with having optimum weather, not like full-blown weather to go with it, which I think would have paired beautifully with this team, and would have given him a secondary spinner, and actually a decently good reliable spinner, because Sandslash can most likely spin on every type of thing out there that can basically friend it out, which I think is really, really good.
Right, and Sandslash gets knockoff, right? I'm not tripping there.
I can check right now for you.
Right. Specifically a low Sandslash, right?
Yep, it does get knockoff.
Alright, yeah, so that also plays a little bit into mind games, gives an option to like click knockoff into ghost types potentially to come in on a spin. Unlike Regieleki. Regieleki doesn't have anything to punish most ghost types coming in on like a rapid spin.
And I did double check. Honchkrow does not have defog at all. So,
Honchkrow does not have defog.
Spinners. Yeah, so the only hazard removal options is defog Lilligant and spin on Regieleki. And more times than not, Lilligant is never going to be forced unless you're that desperate to have defog on it. So, and like haven't fully mentioned about, is definitely the hazard game on this team is a little lackluster. It is pretty much just two rockers, one that physically sets up the rocks and can technically put them up if you don't run Stone Axe for some weird reason. And then obviously the Stealth Rocks from Golurk, and then the only T-Spikes from Rivavroom. So hazard setting is very poor for the team.
Right, no spikers.
Also, and I will say a massive nerf to our boy Golurk. He lost Rock Polish, man, which just hurts him.
Rest in peace,
Golurk. He could have been so good, man. Like Rock Polish, no guard dynamic punches are not fun anymore.
Poltergeist with no guard, never gonna miss that 90 accurate, 110 base power attack.
Yeah, but overall, I do think this team is very good. Even if like Grass didn't necessarily got to pick Gorging Fire, I'm pretty sure he still would have picked Gorging Fire.
Oh yeah, if I was handed a team with Gouging Fire as the first thing, I certainly wouldn't be complaining.
Oh yeah, 100%. But yeah, overall, this team, I love Enamorus. I've used both Enamorus and Cleavor on the same team before, and Cleavor is one of those mons that might be slow in the beginning, but really picks up in some good matchups that kind of helps carry a team. And Cleavor was that mon for me in a recent run I had a while back. So I actually have a lot more respect for Cleavor. And I have a lot of respect for Enamorus because I never run Terra on Enamorus, never got the opportunity to. I do think without Terra, it's a little rough to use, but it's a phenomenal mon. But yeah, overall this team, it's probably at least around probably a 6.5, 7 for me, just because I do like there's some decent pivoting options, with Chili Reception, U-Turn, Parting Shot, Volt Switch. There's a lot of good momentum to bring in that Gouging Fire, which is going to single-handedly just sweep teams. But yeah, it's a little rough around the edges in terms of hazards and kind of that whole, synergy-wise. But overall, I think this is a very solid team.
Right. Really good points you bring up there, and I agree with a lot of it. I would personally give this team, in my scale, a D tier, and I would equate that to about like a 6 out of 10. I personally put it at like the top of D tier. But no, good team. I like it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it does. And then the community gave it a 8.5 out of 10. So pretty close to what you rated it, Thriller. Yeah, I think everybody's kind of agreed that it's got potential, it's fun, and maybe it does have some flaws, but it should be fun to see in action. All right, want to go ahead and introduce the next team? We got the St. Louis Fields.
Yes, we do. The St. Louis Fields and the Helix Fossil 1. He's particularly the number 1 fossil that we've known. But they have Terra Raging Bolt, Cinderace, Landorus Therian, Corviknight, Weavile, Primarina, Heracross, Espeon, Palossand, and Dragalge. And some of the points that me and Noah definitely made is that this team really struggles with hazard removal. It's basically Corviknight and Magic Bounce on Espeon. I'm not saying Court Change on Cinderace because you have to be desperate to do that, and if that's the case, why? I will say it would be kind of funny to be able to take screens away and sticky webs for those certain matchups. Like, don't get me wrong, that's really cool, but that's really niche and really specific. I do think in a decently okay cheap Terra Captain like Raging Bolt, I think is actually a very good value. Even though I do think it was very early, but let's be honest, this was never making back to Helix in that round, especially with how long the rounds took. But I do think Terra Raging Bolt is very interesting. I think it's going to be a really big hidden threat that I think a lot of people are not going to fully give respect towards. So I'm very excited to see how they do, especially with that Thunderclap, Sucker Punch priority. Assault Vest sets will be really great. I do think Double Flying is a little weird on this team, but it does make sense how they do not share the weaknesses. But Landorus, it seems kind of mid for me to use without Terra and without, certain roles they can provide, because you only have 2 rockers, being that and Palossand, which doubles your ground type, and looking at the team, they don't have the best resistances to water, and water is one of the most common typing of draft. Yes, there's Dragalge, but they can kind of force to be AV. There's obviously Raging Bolt, but once it Terras, it loses that unless it's something weak to resist water, and there's Primarina, which is decent, but still that water presence. And that's going to be a theme that we kind of notice throughout some of these teams, that there's always going to be that one specific typing that will check a lot of teams. Even though there is counters, it still punishes a lot of teams there, which I think is very important to note. But overall, I do like a lot of the mons here. I am a big fan of Weavile, especially getting Axel back. It is such an offensive monster. Very good. I'm a big fan of Primarina. Primarina is very, very, very good. Sleeper pick from anyone that does not give this mon respect. Heracross, actually, I'm a really big fan of. It's a really good mon if you get it going. Cinderace, if he lands all your power rolls, he's your best friend. If he misses, he's your one person that you end up leaving to the end of the curve there. But there's very fantastic momentum on this team. A lot of good Volt Switch pivoting, U-turn pivoting, baton pass, flip turn. Fantastic momentum for this team. But overall, it does kind of lack that little bit of synergy, and it kind of leans pretty weird in terms there's not a lot of defensive viability for some of these mons. You can make some of these perfectly defensively, but some that are kind of forced to be defensive versus offense. What are your thoughts about the team?
Right, you bring up a lot of good points here. I agree that it is a little bit weak to water spam. I think another type that this team kind of struggles with is Ghost. The only Ghost resist on it is Weavile, and we all know Weavile's not the most bulky mon out there. But I will say, Bolt, Corv, Primarina, that's an interesting Dragon Steel Fairy core. It's going to be hard to break. And you are 100% right about Raging Bolt being a scary Terra Captain. This thing is very hard to bring down in one hit. And with it being able to Terra into any type, it's going to be able to avoid super effective hits. So almost always, like if they just want to bring like even a spec set with like Draco Meteor or something like that, it's going to hit hard with like base 137 special attack Draco Meteors, or like you said, Assault Vest sets make it even bulkier. It's also a very good, very nice Volt Switch user. You can just get free momentum clicking Volt Switch. And the top 4 mons on the team are all Volt turners. Like we've got Raging Bolt, Volt Switch, Cinderace, Lando T, Corviknight, all with U-turn. There's also the Primarina with Flip Turn. So very nice momentum options on this, kind of similar to the last team. But yeah, like you do said, there are kind of like some weird synergy. I don't want to say issues, but kind of weird decisions made, I guess. And it doesn't really have the greatest defensive options, like you said. Some of the stuff could be like built to be defensive. And I will say, you are not a fan of Court Change Cinderace. I will always advocate for Court Change Cinderace. Like I've seen people run like Will-O-Wisp, Court Change kind of support Cinderace sets, and I do personally prefer like Choice Banded, like attacking sets on Cinderace a little more. But I am fine with using like a support Cinderace set. So it does have its merits, I feel like. But yeah, like you said, removal isn't the best. There are a couple unique options in, like I said, Court Change, but in your opinion, that's not the greatest option. There's Defog Corv, then there's Magic Bounce Espeon, but no Rapid Spinners is a little bit rough. And I guess no Grass types isn't too big of an issue. I mean, easily if you're like worried about Sleep Powder, Spore, or something like that, you can slap Safety Goggles on something, you're fine. And similar to the last team, no Spikers. So again, Hazard setting isn't the best also. But overall, I did like this team. I thought it was fun. Like I said, really like Terra Raging Bolt. Cinderace is scary, especially just like with a banded set or the potential of like a support set. Lando T dominated OU for years and years, so we all know that thing's good. Weavile, like you said, Triple Axle Demon, really happy to see that back and in top form. I would personally give this team, let's see, what would I give this team? I think I would put it a little bit above the BC Solgaleo, maybe like C, maybe even like low B tier. I think, yeah, for me, this team I would put in low B tier. Maybe knock it down a little bit for not having hazard removal, but I don't value hazard removal as much as other people do. I would put it low B tier. What would you rate it, Thriller?
This team, probably for me, because one of the things we didn't really talk too much was the hazards. Like, Heracross does have access to spikes, but it's very weak spiker in my opinion. I know Owen would be like, no, you're wrong, spiker, moving on. But, there's 2 rockers, an adaptable spiker was not, and then T-spikes, so the hazard's a little weak, especially with all the momentum and such big threats. I would probably rate this team a 6 out of 10, probably.
That's
just
fair,
because it's lackluster in certain aspects, but it's still, I mean, there's a lot of cool, fun pieces on this draft. It's going to be interesting to see how Helix does this season.
All right, and the community rated it a 7.4 out of 10. And actually, the community also has like order in like best to worst. I don't think I said that for BC Solgaleo, but that team was 14th best out of the 16. So as you can see, like 6.85 being 14th best, like even the community like thought all of these teams were good. Like nothing on the community went below a 6. So community is also pretty optimistic about the teams, but the St. Louis Feels are tied for 8th place with a 7.4 out of 10. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next team. We've got the Columbus Crowbats, coached by K Savage. We have Terra Garchomp, very, very scary mon. Happy to see Garchomp back in prime form. We have Spectrier, Iron Moth, Screamtail, Slitherwing. I'm personally a Slitherwing fan, being a coach of the Detroit Slitherwings. We got Empoleon, Moltres Galar, Toadscruel, Ampharos, Komala, and Dusknoir. This team, I really liked. Terra Garchomp is very, very scary. Just scale shot, setup sets with Swords Dance are always going to go really crazy, especially with Open Terra. You can pick any defensive type to resist hits, depending on the week. And you do have the option of hazard stacking. I mean, with Open Terra, you're most likely going to be wanting to run like sweeping sets, stuff like that more often. But there is always the option of using like stealth rock, spikes sets, just get hazards up and everything like that. And I mean, most opponents are going to be forced to prep for scale shot setup sets. So that it's a really good opportunity to bring like spikes and stuff like that on Garchomp. Kind of similar to like Meowscarada, Greninja, stuff like that. Terra Garchomp is a great spiker in that it's unpredictable. We've got quite a few special attackers like Spectrier, Iron Moth, stuff like that. Really hard special attackers that also can snowball out of control with like Spectrier getting its Grim Neigh boosts, Iron Moth getting like potential Fiery Dance boosts. Special attackers snowballing out of control are really scary. And then the potential support from Screamtail, like wishing stuff back up, is also huge. Like Spectrier, Iron Moth, Garchomp, all of those are big threats that don't have access to recovery and aren't the bulkiest, but Screamtail getting like potential wish passes, stuff like that, is gonna prove troublesome, I think. We've got Slitherwing, nice physical hitter, and also a good momentum mover. It's got First Impression, so that's a nice emergency revenge option for it. Polion, nice, very unique Water Steel type. Only Water Steel type that's legal in draft, aside from... No, I think actually Empoleon is the only Water Steel type legal in draft. Yeah, personally...
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. So really good walls in like Screamtail, Empoleon. Moltres Galar is pretty bulky and a little bit heavy on the special attacking side. I think the only physical things we have here are Garchomp, Slitherwing, Dusknoir and Komala, I guess, are there, but those are the low point guys that aren't really going to be coming every week. But no, I really like the options with this team, especially with utility stuff. Like, you've got the potential of wish passing Screamtail, screens, Thunderwave, status spreading, stuff like that. We've got like Toedscruel, which is also a nice hazard setter in addition to Garchomp, and can also spin. It's got Mycelium Might, which isn't the best ability. It's to nerf its very fast spores, making them slow spores. But it is going to go through stuff like Magic Bounce, going to go through stuff like that. So I guess if you want to bring a Spore Mon, you can do like Spore Toedscruel. Yeah, that was kind of my thoughts on this team. What did you have to say about it, Thriller?
Well, I know Savage actually for a good while. I've faced him many a times, and Savage is a very talented player. He is one of arguably the best players if you do not think of anything creative. He's a very creative builder and knows how to really prep a good team. And I think with the stuff he's got, he is going to be one of the big threats of this season. The only thing I think kind of mention here is that the electric typing that he has is not the most optimal electric typing. Like, obviously, if he wanted the typing to have the typing, which kind of makes sense, you know, because once his Garchomp's Terra, he has one of those like least few options to switch into electric types. Even though he's got Toedscruel, but Toedscruel, in my honest opinion, is not coming to a ton of gains, especially with having such a big quad of weakness and having so many weaknesses to any other typing out there. And definitely his hazard removal is, in my opinion, a little bit weaker on this side, but I've always, like, you and me have always been on the same side of this there. I personally think you never really need hazard removal. Like, does having removal basically remove chances of losing? Yes, but in my same instance, I let a team set up hazard on me and I got a 6-0 with a weakness policy on Bird and Driftblim, and I would prove that you can win without having hazard removal. So I definitely believe in Savage to really make this team function. He's got really good fast taunters too, which is really good and important to know as well. Overall, I think Savage drafted phenomenally well. He's got so many good pieces that check so many of the typings that he's going to have to be fighting with. And just, there's some hidden potential, you know, like there's Trick Room with Dusknoir, potential Trick Room with Screamtail if it learns it. Like, there's some really good sleeper picks. Like, we can see some Room Service. Hear me out here. Room Service Garchomp under Trick Room. Let the man cook.
Room Service Garchomp under Trick Room. You heard it here first, folks.
If he doesn't do it, I'll do it. I'll do it for the people. Overall, I really do think Savage's team is pretty good, and honestly, I would give him probably a 7.5. I do think a little bit weak on hazards, a little bit too, because he's mostly focusing that on the Toad Scroll and occasionally on the Screamtail and Iron Moth and potentially Chomp, but Chomp being Terra doesn't really want to be, a defensive Terra, where Chomp with Terra can be such a great offensive menace to the team. But I do think Savage though has a very solid team, and I'm very looking forward to seeing him use this team this season.
Right, and I definitely agree with you. This is definitely my favorite team so far. I think the only advantages that the other teams had over this one, I feel like, were the other teams had better electric types and better momentum moves. But definitely, that's not a huge deal. Savage drafted really well, and I think this was kind of, for me, like the cutoff for like where we go from the good teams to like the really good teams. So I personally put this team in the B tier, but I do think it is a cut above everything below. So I think like the line between, for me right now, Crobats and St. Louis Fields is like the line between the really good teams and the teams that maybe I don't see all of the potential in yet, but I'm just going to have to be proven wrong by the coaches. All right, and then the community rated this team the 7th best team with a 7.5 out of 10. So actually the community rated this one pretty close to this Fields too, but I think they definitely do see the merits to it, just like you and I do, Thriller. Let's go ahead and get into our next team.
Yep, we have here the New York Cosmos, coached by N. Morrow, and they went with a very interesting direction for this team. They have an Iron Valiant, Latias, which can be a Terra Captain, Iron Shreds, Rotom Heat, Staraptor, Hoopa Unbound, Overquill, Basculegion Female, Politoed, Lilligant, and Alcremie. And just the Iron Valiant, plus possible Rain option, plus a Terra Latias, and a Hoopa Unbound, this team has a lot of scary options to go with in any direction they really want, which is really amazing. Iron Valiant, which I know someone in this call is very much a fanboy of.
Very much.
This one. Latias with Terra has been definitely proven to be one of the most very scary Terra captains. Just there's so many possibilities. There's Terra Fairy, Terra Poison, and just even Terra Electric, it just has so many great utility aspects of Terra typing, which is really good. Treads getting access to Supercell Slam is very nice because now it can check those bulky waters that are usually good to counter it. Staraptor, I think, is a sleeper pick in draft. I don't think everyone respects Staraptor enough. It's a fantastic normal with Reckless. Very, very, very strong. Hoopa Unbound, again, another advocate defender of Hoopa Unbound. It is such a fantastic Pokemon. I love Hoopa. And the only thing I want to say I kind of have a problem with this team is if you do have a pseudo rain option, I don't like having the option to be kind of more so not be able to be brought more because you have things like Treads and Rotom, which don't benefit you from rain teams, in my personal opinion, which I think is really rough. I do like the option that you can go rain with Overquill, but I do think Overquill fits better in the role of being more so that hazard setter for this team, which is really, really good. But it's also a problem because it's the only real hazard setter besides rocks on Dredge, which can be a thing every now and again, but nothing something you want to do every week. There's also some random Pokemon on this team, like there's an Alcremie, which I think maybe for 5 points could have gotten himself a cheap spinner, a cheap defogger. That way Treads is not the only defogger Treads is not the only remover on this team. I do think the Double Dark is very interesting for this, but I don't think it's necessarily bad because they don't share common type weaknesses and that they can actually help resist each other's weaknesses in certain aspects of it. But I personally am a stand that Politoed is a better range setter, but I do understand that if you're going for mini rain like Morrow here is, Politoed is definitely the better pick because it helps you with a better understanding of the typings and also just grabbing those few pieces that you need versus all the pieces that you need. But overall, I love Morrow's team. It's definitely going to be one of the major teams to have a hard time prepping for this season. What's your thoughts on the team?
Right, and I'm gonna agree with you on this being one of my favorite teams, especially because we see the Iron Valiant first pick. I can get behind that. So far, all of the teams, honestly, in my opinion, have gotten better. And looking at these first 3 Pokemon, Iron Valiant, Terra Latias, Iron Treads, one of just the common themes you hear from people in draft are getting good cores. There's the Fire Water Grass core, and there's the Dragon Fairy Steel core. And this, in my opinion, is a phenomenal Fairy very Dragon Steel core. Like Iron Valiant, Latias, Iron Treads, they just cover each other's weaknesses so well. They are all pretty decent hitters. Iron Valiant on either side. And Latias, I mean, I know that's more defensive than its counterpart Latios, but 110 base special attack is nothing to sleep on. That's still going to be a pretty strong Draco Meteor. And yeah, I just love this team. Like you said, like the mini rain option, it's there. I think it definitely could come, but some of the things that are going to be wanting to come also, like Iron Treads, Rotom Heat, aren't really going to benefit from the rain, especially being a little bit weak to it. And I do agree with you on Staraptor being cool. I love this mon. I've actually tried to... I know one thing Staraptor does, which is a little bit unique, is it has Final Gambit with an actual usable HP stat to use with it and the speed to use it. So Staraptor is like one of the few viable Final Gambit users. So I like Staraptor. Hoopa Unbound, like you said, very underrated. It's just a really strong Scarfer. Like if you just give it a choice Scarf and just give it special attacks or physical attacks, honestly, either way, just it hits really hard with base 170 special attack, base 160 attack. It's just got such high stats to go off of. And then if you just boost its pretty mediocre speed, it's a hard hitter. And it is very bulky on the special side too. It does have that kind of bad typing, but some of the stuff on this team does help alleviate that bug weakness that it has. Like Iron Valiant, Iron Treads, those guys are always happy to switch on a U-turn. And like you said, with Overquill and Hoopa Unbound being good complements to each other, they are both dark types, but their weaknesses are kind of covered by each other. And Overquill, it is an Intimidator, so that lowers attack, which is good for like the defense, the physical defensive side. Then Hoopa Unbound just has its monstrous special defense, so that's something good on the special defensive side. So those two complement each other nicely. I guess the only other complaint I have about it is, like you said, the Alcremie was kind of random. I think you kind of think this too. The Lilligant is a little bit I mean, I'm pretty sure at this point in the draft he just looked, saw he didn't have a grass type yet, and just decided what's a low point cost draft for grass type I could draft. Went with Lilligant, but that just makes the kind of grass, fire, water core a little bit rough with the grass type being Lilligant. But no, overall, really fun draft. I especially really like the mid-tier breakers that he has. They're all really cool. And I would personally give this team high B tier, right above K-Savage and the Columbus Crowbats. What about you, Thriller?
For me, this is probably a solid 7, 7.5. There's a few things that make me a little hesitant on it, but it's almost an 8 for me. But again, I think a 7 to 7.5 seems very valid for this team. Again, if there was no Lilligant and Alcremie, this would probably be an 8, almost a 9 for me. But just having those two on there just kind of really makes me feel like I'm never going to prep for those things at all, and I'm just looking at the bigger picture on this team.
Very fair, very fair. And the community rated it 7.2 out of 10, making it tied for 11th place. All right, so let's go ahead and get to our next team. We've got a very, very cool team named the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Love this logo, love this name, really funny. And we've got a pretty cool draft to back it up, too. First pick, we have Ursaluna Blood Moon, which, by the way, Owen forgot to restrict for a Terra Captain. So this thing could have been a Terra Captain, which would have been horrifying. But luckily for us, he didn't make it as Terra Captain, and I mean, it still is very strong, even not being a Terra Captain. We've got Sneasler and Rillaboom right here. We've got Metagross, Florges, Blastoise, Iron Jugulus, Sandy Shocks, Terra Captain Ceruledge, and Altaria. So right off the bat, we have Sneasler and Rillaboom. Of course, these two are together. Why wouldn't they be together? This has just been tried and true for a while now. You have the Rillaboom to set up grassy terrain that makes Earthquake weaker, so that kind of alleviates that Earthquake weakness on Sneasler, gives it the option of holding like a Grassy Seed to activate Unburden, get a little bit of defense boost. We've got Terra Ceruledge, which actually the winner of the OGDL last season, not just the winner in my division, but the winner across the entire OGDL, after all of the division winners went at it with each other, had Terra Ceruledge. This thing is good. Trust me. It can set up and sweep very easily. It's got the option of weak armor to just get that speed boost. It also has the option of flash fire for the fire immunity, which works pretty well with open Terra. Like, you can Terra into a fire weak type, but still have that immunity to it. We've got really nice defensive options in like Metagross, which, by the way, was buffed very generously. It's got stuff like Psychic Fangs. It's got just more like, it's got Heavy Slam, Heavy Metal option. It, of course, always has like its agility option with like weakness policy, stuff like that. It's just got its coverage stuff. I like Metagross. Really cool mon. Glad it got buffed a bit. We've got Florges, which is a very nice Wish Passer. Blastoise, great spinner, also pretty defensive option. Has the option of doing like Shell Smash shenanigans, stuff like that. And we also have Sandy Shocks, which is a very nice hazard setter in my opinion. I think at this point in the draft, Clives was very smart to grab this. He didn't have a strong electric type yet, and he didn't really have great hazard setting options yet. So I think with this one pick, he kind of fulfilled two very useful roles on his team. Then the Altaria at the end. I know Thriller isn't the biggest Altaria fan. Me personally, I just think he was at this point in the draft, saw he had 4 points left, wanted a dragon type, saw Altaria was available, went with Altaria. And I mean, I guess it is an option, like it has defog, so that's just another removal option. I guess if he wanted to try to be a little cheeky, he could go for like a Dragon Dance sweeping set with it, but this is probably something that's not going to be coming every week. But no, I really like the defensive and offensive options on this team, especially like with Wish Passing Florges, having a good defensive core with Metagross, options with like Sneasler Rillaboom, this very scary Ursaluna Blood Moon. I think this is the best team we've seen so far. Thriller, what did you think about this team?
So, like, I'm a big fan of a couple of these picks. Like, I've used Blood Moon when I took over a team, and fun fact, that team I took over, Blood Moon wasn't even drafted. And I drafted. I had, like, that paired with, like, Urshifu Single Strike and all these really super top-heavy mons to pair with it. And it was definitely one of my fun mons I enjoyed this season. Sneasler, absolute massive fan. And Owen, I don't care what you say, this Pokemon is not ugly. She's beautiful. If you don't want her to be coming after you with some dire claws, you better be nice to her. But I'm a big fan of a lot of these mons. Like, I love Metagross. I actually am a big Jugu fan and a Ceruledge fan. I'm actually using Terra Ceruledge as well. Not the best success I've had with it, but I love what this thing can do in a matchup, especially when it's open Terra and you just see exactly what you have to face off with. And Altaria, if you people are getting paid to draft Altaria, then I can understand why you would get Altaria because you're getting money. But if you're not getting money, please don't be forcing yourself to grab a defogger. That's Altaria. Thank you and good night. But I do think there was also some potential here. I do think the Terra Blastoise could have been really cool, but I love the Terra Ceruledge pick. Also the Terra Sandy Shocks. He has a lot of fantastic Terra options on his team, which I think is really, really nice for his draft. I do think, though, that, like we said, Altaria, it's not really coming a lot of games, if not any, really. So you're really pressuring Blastoise to be more of a defensive spinner almost every single week, which kind of sucks because Blastoise is honestly a very good Shell Smash sweeper. Now, I will say, you do have to fear potential Mirror Earth matchups as well, which is going to be a big thing for it, but I do think there's a lot of good ways Blastoise can work, and it will force the opponent to prep potentially a useless item onto their team if they're not careful in the matchups. So, but there's a lot of good mons here. Like, we got my boy Rillaboom from UMPL. He did really, really well for me in that season. Metagross, very fantastic Pokemon. Overall, there's just a lot of cool pieces with it. I do like that he has 2 ground types, which I won't like defense, like for typing wise, it's a little weird, but I like that he grabbed ground types that don't get affected by terrain, which is really, really good. Because that's like one of the best ways you pair Rillaboom on with ground types is to get rid of the Earthquake ones, but use Special Quake basically, which is really nice. Overall, team's pretty solid. I personally would probably give this team a solid 7.5. I think, again, hazards are a tiny bit weak for me personally, but there's decent enough options towards it. There's a lot of great momentum pieces as well. I overall would have liked maybe just a little bit more of synergy and a little bit more pivoting with this draft as well. But overall, Kyle's has a fantastic team, and he easily has one of the best team logos in the entire universe.
Much agreed with you on having one of the best team logos in the universe. And me personally, I thought this was one of the best teams in the division, and I gave it the fabled S tier. But I definitely do see what you're saying about the potential flaws on this team. It is a little bit weak when it comes to hazards, momentum options, stuff like that. But no, very, very nice team in my opinion. And the community also really like this team. They put it at number 4 with an 8.05 out of 10. So community also really like this team, I guess. They probably also rated it high because of the obviously very funny logo and name. But yeah, cool team. I really like it. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one, Thriller.
Yep, we gotta go with this guy who's too good at the game. He bodies everyone that he sees, and he's just too good for us. We're never gonna win.
Too good.
This
too
guy
good.
that's coaching.
You're too nice.
Well, it says the man that calls me a goat. I think I have to fairly capitalize that. But we've got Noah here himself with the Detroit Silverwings, which does have a fantastic logo, which I will say as well. Well, he has their Terra Latios, which, God, that is going to be a nightmare and half to prep for. And then he's got one of my favorite mons I've ever drafted in my entire career, in Excadrill with Sand, which is the only way you go with Drill. It's Drill with Sand is broken. Diancie, really, really good fairy, honestly. Volcanion, underrated pick. No one better underestimate this Pokemon. I've once 6-0'd someone with a Volcanion, and they had a Tapu Fini. What's your excuse, people? Shaman, fantastic grass type. Very good defensively. Porygon 2 did receive some nerfs, but still a very good normal for ghost types. Lucha, which can definitely have some potential on being, honestly, a very good mold breaker Pokemon with defog support, which is really nice. Rotom, a very, very big sleeper underrated pick, which now got access to Pain Split. Houndstone, because what the dog doing on that sand, and then an Arbok, because it's an Arbok. Overall, this team is very, very good. I do think, besides obviously your Latios and your Hawlucha and your Rotom Frost, which some of these mons you may not, I mean, besides your Latios, that's coming every single week, I think it's fair to say. But stuff like Hawlucha, Frost, they're both not going to really come most matchups, so I do think ground is going to be one of the biggest problems you deal with this season. Obviously, you have potentially in Fluffy Houndstone and also Shaman, but Shaman, again, in some matches may be pressured, and then Houndstone obviously may never be really brought to much games unless they have a really big ghost weakness. But I am such an advocate for Drill. Drill is easily, in my opinion, one of the best Pokemon I've ever used. The first time I ever used it, I got like 30 kills with it. That was the first time I attempted using Weather and Sand. And to this day, I will say in my heart, Sand is the best Weather. But in this meta, I do understand why Sun is the best, and then this is arguably tied for second best. But there are a couple of repeated typings on here, which is a little weird for me personally, obviously. But I do think some of them can still work for what you need it to. But there's a lot of fan favorites on this team for me, and I absolutely love it. The Latios pick was definitely a smart. That was one of the potential ones I wanted, but it wasn't like my main go-to, but it was something I would have liked to have had. Drill was actually something I was potentially thinking of, but after making the purchase that I did, I kind of wanted to think if I really needed to go in direction. I decided to maybe not go with it, and obviously here you come with Drill. But overall, I will say though, I'm not the biggest fan of T-Tar as a sand setter. I am the tried and true, and the only stand that stands by this, Hippo is better because it helps with the typing. I think with having ground steel and ground, you only share one weakness versus the bajillion that Tyranitar pairs with Excadrill, in my opinion. If everyone wants to throw tomatoes at me, at least make sure they're ripe and not rotten, okay? I would appreciate that at least. But Tyranitar, though, obviously being the only other sand setter for this gen, besides Sand Spits, Anaconda, and Baby Hippo, I overall think Tyranitar does provide good utility for your team as obviously a good rocker, is your reliable rocker along with the Diancie, a knockoff user, which is very good to pair with Drill, in my opinion. And just overall, there's some decent things. I do think momentum is going to be a little bit of a problem for you to get in those things like Drill and Latios in a lot of the time. Like, you do have some stuff like Baton Pass with Diancie, the obviously U-turn pivoting with Hawlucha, and I believe Latios keeps U-turn, but it also has Baton Pass, which also got Flip Turn because he's blue apparently, and blue Pokemon get Flip Turn. I will say also you have Voltage, but overall I think your team's very solid, it's very unique, very much something that Owen drafted in NCP essentially. But overall it's a very solid team.
Yeah, thank you for the praises, and I'm glad you like this team because I am honestly not completely sold on it. I will say during the drafting phase for this team, and honestly still right now, I'm just very, very busy, and I didn't want to hold people up too much while drafting. So honestly, a lot of these picks, the first one, Latios, was just the one that I think I wanted right away. I just decided to go for that first pick. And then I also, so after I picked Latios, before it came back to me, I think I saw sub feed pop up, an Owen video dropped. And it was like top 5 returning mons for draft or whatever. And he had Latios as one of them. He's like, oh yeah, Latios is really cool. It pairs nicely with Excadrill for sand. And this is something Thriller was talking about, Owen using Latios Excadrill earlier. So I was like, you know what, that sounds fun. I haven't tried weather yet, so I decided I would go with sand. So my plan of attack then was just Latios Excadrill. And then as Thriller just said, he personally prefers Hippowdon as a sand setter. I went with Tyranitar because that's just what everybody uses. And yeah, so right there I've got the Sandmons and Latios. And from here, I had no idea what to do, honestly. So what I did was one of the mods for this division, Pokemon Master, literally, he can attest to this. I was just throwing stuff at him in DMs, like this Pokemon, this Pokemon, this Pokemon, this Pokemon. Just if it gets to me and I'm not available, you can just say I drafted these, because I didn't really have a lot of time to think about what I was drafting, stuff like that. I just wanted to go with some stuff that I think I needed. The DNC pick, I think personally was I don't want to say weakest pick, because it is going to be useful being like my only spike setter. It is also a stealth rock setter, but maybe I could have gone with a different fairy type that was a little better. It's also overlapping rock with Tyranitar, but yeah, like Thriller said, I am going to be struggling with ground a lot. A lot of these ground immune Pokemon aren't going to be coming every week, like the Hawlucha, Rotom Frost. I'm going to be putting a lot of pressure on the Shaman to just be the Earthquake switch in. And I do kind of wish I had a Wish Passer. Like, I was planning on drafting a Alomomola, but unfortunately, in the round I was going to take it, it got taken before I could get it. So a Wish Passer, I feel like, would have made my life a lot better. And yeah. So, me personally, I've never used weather before, so I'm not sure how this is going to go. I personally put my team in the C tier. Maybe this is just my bias against myself, being a little bit critical of what I do, but I think if I just focus a little bit on being creative with this, I can make this team work. And the community honestly really liked this team. I promise I didn't rig these votes, but I got tied for second place with an 8.1 out of 10 by the community. So that's going to be my team, and we're going to go ahead and move over to the next team, coached by
this guy is
some
go
guy
Owen.
named
He's
Thriller.
He's going to go 0-8. He's the worst player in the
He's not going to
division.
go 0-8. I have faith. We've got my boy, Thriller96, and he drafted Deoxys Speed, Meowscarada, Heatran, Quaquaval, however you pronounce that, Sylveon, Gengar, Cinccino, Thundurus Therian, and Cryogonal. So right off the bat, we have some very, very fast Pokemon. We've got Dio Speed, Meowscarada, Quaquaval really kind of snowballs out of control, clicking Aqua Step a lot. We've got stuff like Gengar, Cinccino, Cryogonal, and then there's Thundurus Therian that like just barely breaks that base 110 barrier. So we've got a very fast, very top-heavy team, which me personally, I'm a huge fan of. I really love drafting top-heavy, just going for high-point stuff first, and then worrying about my budget later on. But yeah, we've got the Dio Speed first pick, which is something I'm personally a big fan of. Deoxys is my favorite mythical. Just love the different forms that it has, the stuff that it does, and really happy to see Dio Speed go round 1 this early, just because I really like that mon. We got Meowscarada, which, if you don't already know, is really, really, really good. The DLC 2 is very generous to it, giving it triple axle. Protean triple axle gives it a base, essentially 120 power ice attack if you're lucky. Off a stab, that hurts really hard with Meowscarada. It's got its guaranteed crit move, Flower Trick. It's got knockoff, U-turn. It can set hazards. It's good. Meowscarada is one of the best, one of the best mods in OU right now. We have Heatran, which is tried and true. I mean, it's good. It pairs well with Meowscarada, I feel like. Kind of helps each other's weaknesses a little bit. Really good fire type, really good steel type. some people, I know Joey's like drafted it like 3 times in a row. So, yeah, if Pokemon MD knows Heatran is good, then it's probably good. Quaquaval. This is a very nice spinner. It's not. It's also with Cragonal, so we've got 2 spinners here, which I think is good. I mean, like I've said, like Thriller said, spin isn't the most important thing, but I personally like. I mean, having multiple ways of removing hazards is a good idea. Can never go wrong with that. Sylveon is going to be a nice wish passer, very specially bulky also. Gengar is a pretty good grounded poison type, very fast, going to be firing off some strong Shadow Balls, Sludge Bomb, Sludge Wave, that kind of stuff. We got Chinchino with Tidy Up now. This thing is broken, obviously. Technician Triple Axle, it's going to go crazy. Technician Loaded Dice, Tail Slap, gonna take some names. It's got knockoff, stuff like that. And we've got the Terra Thunder Asterion, which I'm actually a big fan of. I know Thriller was honestly hoping for a different Thriller or a different Terra captain. He was gonna go with Terra Hydreigon, but I like Thunder Asterion here because as of this point, it's the only electric immunity. If he did go with Hydreigon, he would everything on his team would be able to be hit with electric, so Volt switches would have been free against him. So I think getting the electric immunity here was important, and it is really good. Like base 145 special attack, that's nothing to nothing to scoff at. It barely breaks base 100 speed, so it's going to be faster than a lot of stuff. And just being able to pick any type it wants with keeping in mind like Volt Absorb, so it can pick electric weak types, flying, water, and be fine. Terra Thunder Asterion is going to be scary. And yeah, good momentum options with like U-Turn Meowscarada. There's the classic eject pack. What's it called? The Psycho Boost, Superpower, Deoxys Speed, stuff like that. Volt switching Thunder Asterion. And yeah. So what were your thoughts on your own team, Thriller?
So Deoxys was kind of my low-key, like, #1 pick. I was kind of hoping to get in the draft. I mean, obviously, everyone wanted Gouging Fire, and I was actually low-key thinking Raging Bolt could have made it to me, and I probably would have maybe also grabbed that. But DOS was actually something I kind of almost wanted more, just because it's a Pokemon I've never used before. It's very unique, it's very different, you know. It's kind of a mon that does get a lot of hate because it's not as strong as the other Dios in certain aspects of it. It's only strong in speed, but I think there's potential here, so I really wanted that. I wanted Superior originally, but as you can see with the next coach, he was a big meanie to me and stole my snake from me. I guess he was a true snake. But anyways, I loved Meow. Meow is like one of my favorite starters to use in drafts, and it's very strong with Protean. Heatran, never used Heatran, so very much trying to be more optimistic with how I want to try it and use it. It's going to be very interesting. Quaquaval, I have a good experience with. I've 6-0'd someone with Quaquaval before. Quaquaval is a sleeper pick, if no one else would respect it enough. Sylveon, one of the best fairies I would love to the board at the time that I really wanted. Gengar was supposed to be a Clodsire, but again, people were being meanies to me and stealing the things I wanted, and that was like going to be my best ground type that I honestly wanted for my team, but that didn't happen. Then Chinchino, definitely wanted to try it this time around. I think it's got a lot of potential this gen with Axel, Knock, and Tidy Up. Like I said though, and like Noah said, I really wanted Hydra. Hydra was my kind of around the time I picked up Chinchino, I had settled either Hydra or Thundy. And literally the round I grabbed Thundy, Hydra got taken. So I was like, okay, let's give Thundy another go around because I've used it before. Didn't have the best showing with it last time I used it, but hopefully I can use it again this time. In Cryo, I honestly picked it up just for primarily a spinner. There's probably going to be not a lot of matches it comes, but at least having another spinner that's not Quaquaval and not Tidy Up on Cinccino at least gives me options, which I really like. And it helps with, again, bulky waters that pair well with my Meow and Thunder. So I'm overall very happy with this team. It's definitely not one of my best teams I've ever drafted, but there's potential here, and I'm hoping to be able to make that potential work.
All right. And I guess maybe out of potential fear of what's the word I'm looking for? Bias. Do you want to rate your own team, or are you not going to rate your own team?
Oh, there's no bias. I either give myself a 6 or 7 with this team.
Give yourself like honestly. A 6 or 7. All right. Me personally.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, there's things I do like on this team, and there's some things I'm comfortable with, but there's some things that I feel like I kind of forced onto this team. Like Gengar, honestly, was kind of forced because I needed special, and it was the grounded poison that looked like the best one to me personally at the time. But there are some things I love, like Meow. I'm very much a good familiar with Mon. Thundurus, I have a little bit more familiarity with it. So there's gonna be some things I like with this team, things I've not tried with this team. So it's, and I feel like this team definitely could have been better, in my opinion. But I do have strong hazard setters and just overall decent momentum. So I do think there's potential with the team.
Very fair, very fair. And like I said before, I'm personally a huge fan of very top-heavy drafts. It's a very fast team. I think it's going to be fun. So I personally gave it like a B tier, around midpoint, around like where the Columbus Crowbats are. I think it's going to be fun team for you to use, fun team to play against. The community gave it a 7 out of 10 at 13th place. So I think the community does kind of share your opinions on some of the flaws that you had with it. I know you got sniped a couple times, but sometimes that just happens in draft, and you gotta live with it and just kind of try to adapt. But yeah, it's gonna be Thriller's team. Go ahead and introduce us to the next one.
We have the Cleveland Zygardians here by President Butts, the president of all Butts Incorporated. We have Dragapult, Superior that he stole from me, Hisuian, Samurott, Hatteran, Moltres, Madizone, Hisuian Zora, Hitmonchan, Venomoth, and Big Man, Lanod himself. Well, not Big Man, actually, that's wrong. That's Overquill. We have Lanod himself in Landorus, which is Sheer Force, and went last round, I believe, instead of picked up. But we have the Terra Superior, which, honestly, that's no surprise that that's a Terra Captain. It's one of the all-time best Terra Captains, got introduced this gen. Dragapult, for a lot of people out there, say it's an awesome one. For me, honestly, he's mid. I'm going to say it out there in public. He's kind of mid to me. I don't know if it's because I can't use him right or it's just how I think he performs. Just for me, he's mid. Now, the comment section will get interaction. You're welcome, Noah.
Oh, thanks, Thriller.
Yeah, obviously, we also have another fan favorite of the man in call with Hisuian Samurott, which has been a big carry for him in another league. We have another fan favorites. Like, for me personally, I'm a massive Moltres fan because I 6-0'd someone with a Moltres off lead with weakness policy and agility. So I love the Moltres mon. It's a really good Pokemon. Hisuian Zoroark may be one of those rough mons you'd use, but when you pair onto a team like this, there's a lot of deception and is going to be a quote-unquote illusionist, you may say, for this team that is going to really pair well. I'm a massive fan of the Hitmonchan pick. I'm a big fan of that. I don't know if I'd like it being the only other spinner besides a hazard remover and magic bounce for this team. I do think this team also very much lacks hazards besides one stealth rocker and one T-spiker. Like, obviously Hisuian Samurott's right there and he can set up spikes with its move, but again, it kind of needs to click the move and either risk being hit with a super effective move or being forced to be a lead mon, which can be always predicted by a lot of opponents. So a little bit of a lackluster there in those two aspects, but when you got something like Hisuian Zoroark paired with a Dragapult, there is so many mind games you're going to see with Zoroark. Like, anytime you see a Samurai, you want to go for the fight move, boom, resisted. Like, boom, immune, and go for there. You want to go for a ghost move in front of Dragapult, boom, immune. Then you die to another Shadow Ball. Like, there is going to be so many mind games with this team with Hisuian Zoroark, especially on so many big threats as well. But overall, this team, it has the pieces to work, but personally for me, it's one of the weaker teams just because there's a bit of more flaws than I see positives from this. What's your opinions on it?
Right, and I am gonna go ahead and defend Dragapult. I know you personally aren't a big fan of it, and honestly, for the longest time, I really wasn't either. And I kind of fall into the category of like people that don't really know how to use it right. I don't know. I get that with Dragapult, like its value in draft comes from versatility. Like with it being so fast, you can invest EVs pretty much any way. Like you can put a lot into bulk if you want. You can make it really easily like a support set with screens. It can run Dragon Dance. I mean, if it had Poltergeist, then it'd be instantly banned, but you can run like Dragon Dance, like Dragon Dart sets, those work. Spec sets are really good with it. It's got momentum with U-turn, and just Shadow Ball. It's just so easily spammable with it, and Dragon and Ghost are two really good offensive types. Paired together are even better. just spamming stuff like Shadow Ball, Draco Meteor, making the person guess which one you're going to click. That's kind of the value of Dragapult, I think. But yeah, round 1 Dragapult action. We've seen it before. It's tried and true. I mean, it speaks for itself. People have used Dragapult to great success before, so it makes sense why it would go this early. And then the Terra Serperior. See, in my opinion, I honestly wasn't even thinking Serperior would go round 2. I know Thriller was going to pick it, but during the drafting process, I didn't know this, and I was very surprised to see it go, but I'm looking forward to seeing what it does. I mean, Serperior is, I think, one of my favorite starters. It's my favorite out of the Gen 5 starters, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what it does in draft with Open Terra. Hisuian Samurott, like Thriller said, something I really like. Ceaseless Edge is broken. It's just got its options, Flip Turn for momentum. It has a decent special attack, so you could see it run like Air Slash sets or something like that. But yeah, I do kind of agree with Thriller on like kind of the flaws on this team. Me personally, I don't really see too much like, I don't know, bulk, I guess. I don't know. I think this team is a little bit, I don't know. I'm sorry. My brain is kind of fried. But yeah, I don't know. Landorus going last was also interesting to me. And originally one of my criticisms was like raw damage output wasn't great. But seeing Landorus here kind of alleviated that concern for me. I don't know. In my opinion, a lot of these mons, like, they aren't the most versatile after round 3. Most of the mons like kind of do the same thing in my opinion. And I mean, the mind games with Hisuian Zoroark are going to be fun, I feel. And me personally, I'm not really a big fan of playing mind games, but some people are. It's going to make prep for this team annoying. Yeah, like Thriller said, kind of, in my opinion, one of the weaker teams, but still, I'm going to say, like, maybe I don't fully see the vision with it. I didn't draft the team. I can't see into the mind of Mr. President Butts, so I don't know what he's going to do with it, but it should be fun. And yeah, I personally would give this team a, what would I give it? I gave it a C tier, and I think, again, that equates to me like a 6, 7-ish out of 10, so definitely not a horrible team. I think it has its merits, but definitely I am going to need to be sold on it a little bit more. And the community gave this team, what did the community give it? Forgive me for not knowing where all my stuff is. The Zygardians. The community gave it tied for 8 out of 10 with 7.4. So I guess the community kind of thinks this is like around middle of the teams. And I mean, I can see why. I mean, Terra Serperior is fun. Dragapult going around 1, Hisuian Samurott. Those are all good mons. And I mean, yeah, it's not everybody's going to have the same opinions on stuff. Thriller and I need to be kind of sold on this team a little more. But yeah, that's going to be the Cleveland Zygardians. So go ahead and get into the next one. We've got the Halifax Mola Heads by Identical. And this was, in my opinion, like kind of I'd say the weirdest team in this division. And I think a lot of people agreed with this. And it kind of led to this team being rated a little bit lowly by most people, kind of me included. But we've got Terra Iron Boulder, which, by the way, is going to be pretty threatening as like a revenge killer. Iron Boulder is doing really well right now. We've got Iron Hands, Walking Wake, Hisuian Gudra, Volcarona, Clodsire, Enamorous Therian, Alomomola, Mandibuzz, and Poltegeist. So this is a very, very slow team. Like, we've got Iron Boulder and Walking Wake. Those are the only things above base 100 speed. We've got Volcarona at base 100, and then everything else is stuff that's generally pretty slow. So this team, I feel, is kind of going for more of like a bulky offense strategy, a little bit leaning into stall, I guess. But in my opinion, stall, it only kind of really works if you have all of the pieces for it. I know we do see Clodsire here, so that is an unaware potential mon, and that's definitely good for a stall team. and we've got Lomomola with like regen, Wish Pass, which is also good. But I don't know. I don't see like the best stall stuff here. I don't know. Like I personally would like. I don't know what I'm looking for, honestly. I feel like there's something missing here for like the perfect stall team, in my opinion. But I think there were some interesting options here. Walking Wake in particular was definitely interesting, especially without Sun. Like Walking Wake is usually something that goes really early and then is followed up by a Sun setter because just people really love using Walking Wake with Sun. So already just seeing that without Sun is interesting to me. And then just some really interesting picks like Iron Hands. That's kind of like the VGC menace, but I guess it is good in singles too. And I like Iron Hands. It's fun. Hisuian Gudra, again, that's an interesting one. I like Hisuian Gudra. Don't know if I would have picked it round 4. And it's, again, like it's doubling up on dragons already, like early on. Interesting, but again, I doubled up on rocks in my first 4 rounds, so maybe I shouldn't be criticizing there. Volcarona is, I think, like, the most frail mon on this draft is Volcarona. And I mean, I guess that could be a threatening setup sweeper with Quiver Dance. Definitely hindered by not having Terra, but don't let Terra Iron Moth into draft, please. Yeah, Clodsire, I think, again, was a good stall Pokemon. Definitely good options with like Water Absorb, Unaware. It's a hazard setter too. So this is the Spiker, the Stealth Rocker, the Toxic Spike setter. And there's gonna kind of be a lot of pressure on this to be the main hazard setter, but I mean that's kind of what Clodsire does best. So no too big of problems there. And Amherst-Therian was actually one I was considering because I thought it might pair well with Sand, having Overcoat, not being chipped down by it every turn. But I didn't end up going with it. And I mean, I think it does kind of work here on this team. It is, again, slower, but then after that, we have a Lomomola, which, like I said earlier, I wanted to draft because I wanted a Wish Passer, but I think it's going to do well on this team. That's definitely, I think, going to be a key player on this team. What were your thoughts on it, Thriller?
So for me, this was definitely one of our weakest teams that I think we saw throughout this rosters. Not because like there were so many flaws, but there's just something that doesn't make sense with it. Like I think the draft started out strong, in my opinion, but then just really fell off after I think probably the Volcarona pick. Besides the Clodsire, but as for that, everything kind of fell off because like in like those last 4 rounds, he drafted enough like 3 mons that were weak to electric. He only has 2 resistances, one that's an immunity, one that allows Volt Switch pivoting to be not punished. And just overall, there's just some flaws I see on this draft. Like this draft is insanely ground weak and like ground and edgequake weak. This team is also pretty much for the most part definitely weak to ice, something like that. Like Iron Bundle is going to just clean house on this team for the most part. But there are some ones I do like. Like I am a massive Hands fan. That man can be able to take on pure power Metacham any day of the week and beat it 1v1. Iron Cleave with boosters is going to be fantastic, especially with Terra now, because definitely Terra, when we've seen on the high ladder, is definitely one of the most broken sets out there for it. Walking Wake, definitely with access to now knockoff and flip turn, gives it a lot of more better viability to be outside the Sun team, so I don't think it was the worst pickup. But then grabbing another dragon that's a steel that's not weak, that is neutral to fairy, though, definitely was a bit of a problem. I understand if you wanted a good steel type, but having a steel type, just to have a steel type sometimes isn't the best case unless that steel type does something for your team, which in my opinion, Gudra does not. Volk, I have become a new believer and have now actually appreciated after using it to beat a Chi-Yu and then saving my butt in a Wi-Fi match. So I am actually starting on the redemption arc for Volcarona, so I will stand the Volcarona. I will say, though, it's going to definitely be forced to be boots a lot of the time, which I think hurts the viability for it. But honestly, when Heavy Duty is introduced, this Pokemon basically gets the tattoo of boots onto its wings. So the biggest thing I see in this team is that it is very hazard weak. Like, you have only got Defog on Mandibuzz, and that's it. You're forced to bring boots on about everything else in your team. And all the hazards are basically on Clodsire. There's no other hazard setter on this draft at all besides Claude, which I think is a massive hindrance to Claude, because it's probably going to be forced to be either one hazard and then recover, Earthquake, and then either coverage move, Gunk Shot, Poison Jab Slash, or again another hazard. So Claude is very much really is like overwhelmed with hazard setting for most matchups, and I think it's going to be one of the things that really brings it down for the team. There's Mons on here that are good, they just don't synergize well, in my opinion.
That's fair, that's fair. And what would you rate it?
Honestly, a 5.
Give it a 5 out of 10? Alright. And me personally, I put it at the bottom of C tier. Like, I don't know. Me personally, I think there's potential with it. I just feel like there's something missing. I don't know what it is, but I don't know Identical as a player. I don't know what they're capable of. I don't think I've seen their games, but maybe they knew what they were doing while they were drafting. I'm not 100% sure. So I am going to give them the benefit of the doubt here. I'm not 100% sure what's going through their head, but yeah, bottom of C tier for me, just based on team and how I would use it. All right, let's go ahead and get to our next one. Somebody I am personally really happy to see in this league, because with me and Thriller, he was in the UNPL. We've got the California Cyclozars.
Yes, coached by the Pokemon Master 355, and I think it's 6. But yeah, they're actually, fun fact, my week 1, so I'm definitely going to try to make sure they don't know any strategies I'm going to try to exploit or anything like that. But they went with a very interesting draft, in my personal opinion. They started off with Chi-Yu, Kyurem, Gliscor, Terra Manaphy, Rabombi, Skarmory, Serena, Bronzong, and the Urshifu Rapid. I am a massive Rapids fan. That is a very good Pokemon, very slept on. I think a lot of people do not realize that it got massive rise in this generation. But it definitely got a big buff with having Punching Glove, but also a bit of a nerf at the same time, because it canceled out its ability to hit for Protect, which is a double-edged sword. Kyurem lost Roost, which I think really hurts a lot of its viability and a lot of times of draft. It's still going to be a great mon, but really suffers a little bit now in terms of its sets. Gliscor obviously getting a lot of hazards, which is really nice, but losing Roost again. He's just grabbing all the mons that got nerfed without Roost, essentially, at this point. But I mean, Protect still provides the function, but you're almost forced to bring Protect if that's the case. Chi-Yu, obviously someone in this call has really much loved and appreciate for what it's offered. Manaphy, someone else in this call who is possibly me or something like that loves this Pokemon for what it offers. Rabombi, a very good web setter in the format. Skarmory got lost to Defog this gen, which is really a big blunder to it. But still a good hazard setter, still decent iron defense, body press sweeper. Serena, a fantastic rapid spinner. Just a lot of these Pokemon that belong in calls with the UNPL. I don't know why, but there's just a lot. And then they have a Bronzong here, which honestly kind of just feels random to me on this team. Like, I don't know why Bronzong's here. I mean, I don't really see much aspect of Trick Room for this team, because he's already got the Rocker and Gliscor. I don't know if he wanted a secondary rocker that specifically filled the niche. I don't know if he personally grabbed it for a ground immunity or a fire immunity potentially. Like, I don't really know. It's just one of those random mons that I think doesn't make sense for this draft, in my opinion. But there's some really good roles on this one. Again, it's one of those teams that relies on one remover, which can be a blessing or a curse depending on how teams go. But I do think there's strong hazard setting there with the Gliscor, the Skarmory, and the potential with webs with Rabombi. There's also some fan favorites on this draft, but there's a lot of typing duplication, which I don't think is really good on this team, in my opinion. But it doesn't necessarily hurt it. But it's going to be interesting to see how Master uses this team this season with all the things that we've been going for. What's your thoughts on his team?
I really like this. I really like some of the mons on this team. I guess I'll say, first up, the Terra Manaphy. I personally think it's very scary. Like, we've already seen you using Manaphy, and it's just so unpredictable. Like, it's got Tail Glow sets, it's got Take Heart now, it's just got it. Like, it could, it's got base 100 across the board. So I mean, it wouldn't make much sense. But if he wants to, he could bring Choice Band. Who knows? It's got Flip Turn for momentum, and then just being able to be any type he wants is gonna be terrifying. Like, honestly, just having to prep for like. You're going to have to prep for, like, Take Heart sets every week, obviously, especially with the Open Terra. But that just leaves him open to be able to do anything with it. So I'm scared of Manaphy. Chi-Yu, I personally know how good it is. I've used it, so it makes sense being here. I think the main issue I see with this team is it's pretty slow. Like, it's not super slow, but there's two things that are base 100. There's Rabombi, which is above base 100, but it's Rabombi. It's more like the it's It's more like a hazard setter. And then everything else is below base 100. So I'm not 100% sold on like the speed aspect of the team. I think it's going to be pretty reliant on the sticky webs, I guess. But yeah, like you were saying, Serena is the only remover. I like Serena. I used it, but maybe being the only remover and having to come to remove stuff, just being forced to use team slot on it isn't the best. And then, like you said, the Bronzong might not make the most sense here. Maybe he wanted like an extra screen thing. Maybe he wanted an extra rocker. Maybe he wanted a potential trick rumor. Who knows? Like I said before, I can't look into the minds of these people, but I'm not 100% sure with this. But like you said, there are good merits to it, like good hazard setters, good there are some overlapping typings, but just strong mods in general. I am personally, though, gonna say this is the weakest team in the league. That's just my opinion. I put it at the bottom of D tier. I would give it like a 5 out of 10, but like I said, I don't know what Pokemon Master is gonna do with it. I know he's a really good player. He's been he was like having a really dominating win streak in UNPL. So I know he's good, and he's probably got something in mind with this team. And what was your rating for it? Did you give one?
I would probably give this team at most a 6. Like, there's some things that are good, but I really think he needs better ways to control it. Like, I think having 2 steals that share the same weakness in one typing, which this entire team has struggles with a little bit.
Right.
But then
Very
having
fire weak.
2 typings, yeah, basically. But I mean, overall, it's not going to be the worst thing out there. But we'll be interested to see how the Master handles this team, because if he's a true Pokemon Master, he should win his games with this.
Right, and I mean, the community seems to think he's going to be doing well with it. They have him tied for 8th with 7.4 out of 10. So. Or actually, no, sorry, I was looking at the wrong team. He's 10th with 7.25 out of 10, but still higher rated than both of us rated him. So maybe everybody sees something in this team that we don't. But like I said, looking forward to seeing what he does with it. I know personally that he can cook pretty well. So let's go ahead and get into the next one. We've got the Wisconsin Weirdeer, coached by SJ. And he's got Terra King Gambit, which is, by the way, crazy. I know we're not playing Nat Dex. If this was like Nat Dex Terra King Gambit, it'd be Jover for everybody else. But still, even in Paldea, Terra King Gambit's going to be very scary. We've got Zapdos, Ogerpon Hearthflame, Glamora, Azelf, Azumarill, Crocodile, Noivern, and Dunsparce. I'm personally a huge fan of the Dunsparce pick. That raises it a tier for me. I love Dunsparce so much. But no, I honestly think, like, regardless of my bias for Dunsparce, I think this is a very well-built team. Just like I said, the Terra King Gambit is really good. I know Zapdos is a very nice defensive Pokemon. I personally just used it, so it's really good. A very offensive team overall. Like, Glamora is a pretty offensive hazard setter. Like, it likes to come in with a sash, maybe get a hazard up on its own, or just click a very strong attack. It's got 125 base special attack. Just it gets hit, and then automatically, if it was physical, there's a toxic spike up on the other team. So Glamora is just a very fast defensive hazard setter that I'm a fan of. We've got the Ogerpon Hearthflame, which is very, very good. Mold Breaker, very strong attack, pretty fast. Just grass fire coverage, physical, very nice. Potential for like Encore, spike setting, sword stance setup too. Really a big fan of Ogerpon Hearthflame. And yeah, I guess the only main problem I see with it is no ghost type, but I think a lot of these teams, like that we've seen recently, have been kind of foregoing certain types that maybe should be on teams, in my opinion. I don't know. I'm not going to knock off too many points for that, though. But no, yeah, it just looks like Zapdos is going to wall and spread paralysis. Ogerpon's just going to like break through the team. And then Gambit's just going to sweep at the end. And honestly, I don't really see too much else to say about this team, but I think it's really good. What was your opinion on it, Thriller?
So, I do agree that King Gambit is probably one of the most best Terra captains that were ever allowed in this format that we're doing. just because the Fallen with Sucker Punch Mind Games in the Kowtow Cleave is super great. I have also used Zapdos myself, only twice though, but Zapdos both times have just been phenomenal. It fits both league defensively, offensively. Zapdos just does a lot. I have recently actually used Heart Flame in John's League, the JGDL, just recently, and it was definitely one of my favorite mons I used that season. Started off hot, then kind of didn't do as well as I wanted near the end, but still a fantastic Pokemon, especially if you get a Trailblaze and a Swords Dance off. It kind of just becomes game over at that point. Glamora is literally Hazard's incarnate, and also he has a removal itself with Mortal Spin, which can poison opposing Pokemon, which is also very, very good. It's just like one of those hazard bots that just fits perfectly on any team. Azelf, I am a massive Azelf stan. Is my favorite Lake Spirit out of all three. Azumarill, I'm a big Azu guy after I started using it this gen. It is so fantastic. You can literally be adamant every single week, but still be defensive. Plus, with getting Paris Trap sets back, it's so much better than before, especially with dealing with stuff like Dondozo, which is really great. Crocodile, obviously getting its tools back and also getting Scale Shot is really fantastic. Noivern, which is a fantastic defogger in some aspects of the team, is also a decent enough dragon type as well. And then we have a Dunsparce, but overall, there's like not too many overlapping weaknesses like you did. I do mention the Ghost. Ghost is kind of threatening for this team, but kind of pressures Gambit to not Terra until most of the Ghost type is weakened down, and it can just revenge it easily, which is really nice. Crook is still a decent enough fantastic Ghost check, especially AV Crook. There are definitely viable reasons to go something like AV Crook in definitely matchups and stuff like that. Overall, this team is very, very strong. I do think Hazards will be a tiny bit weak from my personal preference. Like, yes, the Glamora can always be able to pressure them, but besides Glamora, you do have Rocks with Gambit, which Rocks is probably never being brought, and then you have Rocks on Crook, which Rocks on Crook's not the worst thing because it has viability. I know Owen's a big Crook guy that loves to use it for Rocks mostly, but overall, I don't know. I mean, I do love the Frisk option with Noivern. Knowing that item information on like the first turn potentially as well is just super, super viable. Good pivoting option there, and a Volt Switch option there as well. I do think the pivoting's a little weak here, but there's still some enough good defensive backbone with this team that plays offensively. And overall, I think it's decently balanced, and it's going to be really interesting to see how SJ uses this team.
All right, nicely put. And what would you rate the team?
I'd probably rate this team at least a 6.5, maybe 7 at most out of 10. It has the pieces. I maybe am not seeing it fully right now, but eventually over time I'll probably see it. But overall, I think it's a very solid team.
All right, and this might be my Dunsparce bias speaking, but I personally would give this team A tier. Like, I think this is a really good team. Honestly, in my opinion, there's really not too much to be said about it. Just like I said, I think Glamora gets up the hazards really easily. Zapdos just walls stuff, spreads para. Ogerpon just like breaks walls. Then King Gambit goes for the sweep at the end, and then there's just all this other stuff that comes as needed. So, there's Dunsparce bias. I love this thing. But yeah, I think this is one of the best teams in the division, and I personally think it's going to be going really far, most likely making playoffs, and could be there in the finals. Who knows? Let's go ahead and get into the next team.
Yes, sir. We have the Ferrari Rapidash.
1 second. I'm sorry. Very, very sorry. I forgot to give the community ranking. The community put this. Community gave this an 8.1, tied for second place with my team. So I guess the community really likes this one also. Alrighty. Go ahead, Thriller. Go ahead.
We have the Ferrari Rapidash, coached by Lennart, who was actually a replacement coach, which he's very clutch that he was able to take over the team. They had, I don't remember exactly when they took over.
I think it was before they picked. It was before they picked. So they completely drafted. I think they drafted everything themselves.
So we have here Great Tusk, Greninja, Acheladon, Kilowattrel, Mungus, Pelipper, Terra Kingdra, Lapras, Mesprit, Tinkaton, and Floatzel. And this just screams, I don't know, just some random rain team, I don't know. But it's one of the strongest rain teams out there. There's so many pieces on this draft that have such great rain usage on this team. Like, there's some decent enough hazard setters for this team. Like, you have Tusk, you've got Mesprit, you have Tink, which are all reliable rockers. You have Greninja that can very much roll in any other matchup, can bring spikes and T-spikes potentially as well in this matchup as well. The things that are super strong about this team besides rain is that Terra Kingdra able to shred a freeze-dry weakness, which is very possible to have to potentially see in certain matchups, is very nice to get rid of that. Also, just good defensive checks. I will say there is, I feel like, a little bit too many like water mons on this team. Like, we look here that this, like, almost half of the team are water types, which, yes, there is a Great Tusk and there is Voltazorb, Kilowattrel, and an Amoonguss, but certain electric types can get the coverage to beat those opposing counters to the teams, which I think is a little bit of a hindrance there. But I'm a massive Kilo fan. I love Kilowattrel, and I do think the Archaludon was a perfect pick because on Rain, a non-waiting electro shot that can just guarantee fire off immediately is so broken. And I do think Great Tusk is a fantastic Pokemon. I don't know how I feel on Rain, though. It's one of those weird things where you have now to worry about a hurricane and water boosted attacks. I feel like that pressures Tusk to not be as broad as much as it could viably be, but there are still a lot of fantastic things on this team. Like, you have 100% accurate hurricanes with Kilowattrel now, which is really, really good. You get access to water weather ball, which I think is really nice. But the same thing could also be said for Amoonguss as well. Hurricane spam on that is really rough. I personally would have liked to have seen maybe a Lantern possibly on this team, maybe over Kilo, or at least over something like Lapras or Floatzel. Like, obviously Floatzel, the resurgence of Floatzel apparently from early gen, that it's the broken Rain user now apparently because of Wave Crash. But I don't know, there's some things about this team that is really weird. Like, there's a decent amount of ground immunities on this team, which seems weird because ground types are pretty much guaranteed not to show up. But I'm not saying it's bad, but there are some things I'm a little questionable on. But I overall think this team is very fantastic. What are your thoughts about this team?
Okay, I'm right away gonna say it. I don't think this team is S tier. Like, I don't think it's the best team in the division, but it's my favorite team in the division. It's just so much fun. Like, I can really, really respect Lennart here for just full sending on the Rain. Like, he has 5 water Pokemon. This is by far the record for, like, the most overlap types, but who cares? Like, he's going for Rain. He's just may as well just commit to it. Now, I will say I kind of agree with you. Like, the Lapras, not 100% sold on that. I get wanting to have the water absorb mon when you have a Rain team. I think honestly, if he would have been able to grab Clodsire, that would have been like perfect. Or you said Lantern. I'm not sure if Lantern is even in Paldea. I'm not 100% sure, but a different water absorber.
It did because it didn't go.
I think honestly, he would have done really well to have Volcanion actually, but I took that earlier, but because that would have also been a fire type, which he doesn't have yet. But no, I really like this team. It's just full sending into Rain. It does kind of have its flaws, like as mentioned earlier, but it can just kind of it can just kind of ignore those and just go full on into just offensive Rain, and I can really respect that. I think it's just going to be a lot of fun for him to use, and it's going to be a lot of fun to play against. Like, and he does have like some very unique options too. Like, I've personally done some interesting stuff with Greninja before. Great Tusk, it's very versatile. I drafted that first in OGDL Season 1, so I know it's good. Maybe, like you said, not the best on Rain, but it will have its use, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, gotta have the Pelipper as your Rain setter if you don't have Politoed, but I don't know. I think it's fun. Mesprit's there as like a good just utility option. It can run like Stealth Rock, stuff like that, Encore, Thunder Wave, or it could just run like Scarf, Specs, that kind of thing. You got the Tinkaton, Rock Setter, again, Thunder Wave, it can knock, get that strong Gigaton Hammer off. And then you've got your Floatzel, because it's the resurgence of Floatzel, like you said. I really like it though, and I gave it like low A tier. I just had to give it A tier. And what was your ranking for it?
I would probably give this team like a 7.5, at least 8. I do think there's a random things that here that prevent it from being more higher up, in my opinion, just because, like, I think, again, some stuff that I just feel random is like the Tusk after that first pick, and then just having so many repeated typings that I don't think synergize perfectly well with one another, but it still doesn't take away that this is a very strong team. It's definitely going to be one of the top teams to beat this season.
For sure, for sure. And yeah, like you said, it does have its flaws, but it's going to be really fun and one of the top teams to beat. And the community also seemed to really like it. It is tied for 5th place with a 7.65 out of 10 for them. And I mean, I can see why. It's going to be fun for sure. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get into the next team. We've got Omarinator with the Ontario Obstagoons. We've got Urshifu, specifically Single Strike. We've got Goldingo, Clefable, Mamoswine, Rotom Wash, Terra Garganacl, Hisuian Electrode, Talonflame, Uxie, Muck, and Avalugg. And this is, I don't know, at this point, honestly, looking at the teams, I've been looking at teams for so long now that I really don't have too much to say, but it does have, like, it has a lot of utility stuff, is I guess what I'll say. Getting that Goldingo early is very nice. I know personally Goldingo is very good. Having just the immunity to all status moves, very, very useful. Goldingo, it's just really strong, like, no matter what you do with it. You can run like the classic Boldingo set, just max defense, bold, recovery stuff, what's it called? Nasty Plot, or you could run like Hex with Thunderwave, that works really well. Just Make It Rain on its own is a really strong attack. You could run like Scarf sets, stuff like that. Really good Pokemon. Steel Ghost, phenomenal typing. Big fan of the Goldingo pick. You've got the Clefable, which Unaware, Magic Guard, whatever you want to do, it's got really great ability. It can just set up sweep, it can get up the rocks, it can recover, that kind of stuff. I think it still has Wish, right? So it can Wish past 2 if it wants. Really versatile mon. I like it. Mamoswine, I'm personally a big Mamoswine fan. Probably the first good offensive ice type. Just because it's got the thick fat to kind of alleviate some of its weaknesses. Very fun Pokemon. Really like Mamoswine. And then Rotom Wash, like I've said, good utility stuff. It's good with Scarf, good with like Will-O-Wisp, Thunderwave sets, kind of similar to Goldingo in that sense. It can set up screens. It's got Pain Split back now, so that's very nice for it. It's got its momentum option with Volt Switch. And then the star of the show here, Terra Garganacl. This is just going to be annoying. Very, very annoying. It's just having to prep for Garganacl being pretty much any type. It's got its Salt here, it's got its Recover, it's very bulky. Taking this thing down is going to be difficult. Hisuian Electrode, I used that last time on OGDL. Honestly, I can't really say too much about it. It didn't really do too much. I think there's one week in particular that I brought it, and it was pretty annoying for the opponent. But other than that, it was kind of meh for me. We've got the Talonflame as the main remover option with Defog, and it's a good Pokemon. I mean, it can revenge with, like, if it stays at full health, it's got Gale Wings with Brave Bird, which is nice. It can Sword Stance set up. Brave Bird and Flare Blitz are both pretty strong stab attacks for it. It's got, like, its utility stuff, like I said, Defog, Will-O-Wisp, it can recover with Roost. It's a U-turner, so I like Talonflame. Good speed tier, too. Then we've got the Uxie, again, utility stuff, Screens, Stealth Rocks, Yawn, Thunderwave, Momentum with U-turn. So far, just so much utility stuff. And yeah, I mean, I'm not too sold on it because I feel like it leans a little too much into utility to where it's like at the point where there aren't really too much like attackers. But I think it's still got potential, and definitely I could see it doing well. What were your thoughts on it, Thriller?
I will say this is probably one of our most balanced teams that we've ever seen. Like, there's no many overlapping weaknesses that we're seeing here. It's got all the pieces to cover react to each other's typings really well. I definitely think going for the cheap Terra value, and probably getting one of the best lower end cheap Terra value Pokemon in Garganacl, I think was a really good solid plan on their end. Urshifu plus Goldingo is just insanely hard to really counter because they just counter each other's weaknesses like perfectly, just both offensively and defensively. Clefable, in my opinion, one of, if not the best fairy types ever in draft. Don't at me, don't say it's wrong, because it's just facts. But Mamoswine, one of the most premier ground types that came in the generation. Rotom Wash, one of the best pivoting Pokemon in the game. Hisuian Electrode, it has its moments, its niches, it's not the most terrible thing out there. Definitely a strong grass type that can just punish electrics and water grounds, which is really nice. Talonflame is actually one of the best revenge sweepers to things like Sneasler, which I think is really, really good, especially with those Gale Wings and stuff like that. It has really cool utility options. Uxie, one of the better defensive psychics in the format. Muck is just Muck, and Avalugg, he's just a table. But I think the only thing I find weak on this team is that it just has rocks. There's nothing else besides, well, then there's potentially T-Spikes, but then you're forcing yourself to bring T-Spikes on Muck, which isn't going to be the best option in most matchups. And that's the only thing I'm kind of seeing a downside. I'm also seeing a little bit of a downside in terms of removal. Like, Talonflame can defog, but I don't think it wants to be forced into that role, and then you're almost bringing Avalugg in all the time. So, for me, the only weakest thing I see on this draft is not really strong hazard setters, and again, not the strongest removal, but I think overall it's been one of the best teams we've seen, just because it really just has all the offensive pieces and defensive pieces paired perfectly with one another. Fantastic utility, and overall just a solid team. And if I had to rank it, I'd probably give it an 8.5 or maybe at least a 9, because I think there's so many perfect things with this team. Again, the only thing I would have liked better is hazard setting and hazard removal.
Right, and that's very fair. And like you said, not too much hazards outside of rocks. And I feel like especially with just all the utility stuff, like with its screens, with like the wish passing, stuff like that, just encore, just like status spreading, I feel like this team would have just done so well with being able to spike stack. So that definitely is a huge hindrance to it for me. I think I'm kind of starting to come around to it as we talk about it, and I was going to put it in like high C tier, but I think I've kind of been sold on it a little bit. I would put it. I'm willing to bump it up to B tier now, but I do definitely agree with you on it being good. It has it's very balanced. It doesn't really its weaknesses are covered nicely, and the main problem with it just being like, it doesn't really have the spike option to just take advantage of so much of like the tools that it has. So I would give it low B tier, but again, I think I'm coming around to it. I see the Urshifu now, and I'm just thinking like, maybe my point about raw damage Pokemon is a little moot. But yeah, just it kind of lacks like really fast damaging stuff, I guess. Like Urshifu, it's not exactly slow, but it's not exactly like a base 110 Ogerpon Hearth Flame throwing off strong attacks. And then same thing with like Mamoswine. It's strong but not necessarily fast. But yeah, low B tier for me. And then the community decided to rank this. What was this team again? I'm sorry, the Ontario Obstagoons. They put it at 15th, so second to last, with a 6.7 out of 10. So the community didn't really seem to like this, and I mean, I don't know. I was kind of there with the community at first, putting it like low, like C tier high, but no, I've kind of, I don't know. I like this team now, and I think it's got potential. I think Omarinator can really do something with this, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it is.
All right, our next team is the Wish Wings by Wish No More. And they have a Tornadosterian, Galar Slowking, Ogerpon, TL Mask, Keldeo, Klefki, Donphan, Hisuian Arcanine, Hydreigon, Bellibolt, and a Cottonee. Very interesting to see them go with a Terra Ogerpon, where I really think the Terra Hydreigon, or at least the Terra Hisuian Arcanine was a better pickup here. Just because you're only secluded to Terra Grass with Ogerpon Teal, which is very interesting, but we'll see how that works for them. But Torrentee, obviously one of the most tried and true Pokemon since the introduction in Gen 5. It's been one of the more stronger top tier Pokemon that's been always drafted. Galar Slowking is the GOAT. He is one of the most best poison types you could ever ask for. Now access to Chilly Reception for momentum, for slow pivots, which is great. One of the best Trick Room setters in the game as well. Ogerpon is actually a really good Pokemon because it gives you access to not only Defiant, but also then gives you a speed raise with its I think it has a speed raise or something like that. From the embody aspect, yeah. So I can actually see the reason why they wanted to go with that, to get both the embody aspect speed, which can happen every time. I think it happens every time they come in.
Yeah, on every switch.
Possibly. And then obviously there is the Defiant aspect, which is really good. Again, I do think this is probably, in my opinion, the weakest Terra captain in the entire draft.
Definitely agree with
maybe
you there.
arguably, definitely maybe Spectable on the next one we talk about, but for me, I think this is the weakest, just because it's secluded to that one type, and you're not going to be surprised by that type, which I think plays a big factor, especially with being Terra Preview.
Right.
You can already go into the matchup knowing it's going to be grass, which I think really hurts any chances of any mind games and drafting. Keldeo obviously got some pretty neat spots. He got backing wave this gen now, which is pretty good. Klefki, massive Klefki stand since the start of this generation. I used to be a Klefki hater, and now I'm a Klefki enjoyer. Donphan, pretty good spin option for this team, which is really, really nice. Hisuian, Arcanine, Intimidate, and Rockhead are fantastic abilities for this Pokemon. Hydreigon, which also got access to Rock this gen, which is really nice for it. Lost Defog, unfortunately, but at least keeps Roost. Then we got a Bellybolt. He's just a happy man. Just look at him in his belly and his weird eyes that are not his eyes. And then there's a Cottony. And a Cottony.
It's a Cottony.
Overall, I mean, I don't hate this team, but there's a lot of things that are kind of missing it for me. Like, there's, again, one of these instances that we keep seeing is that there's a ton of rockers for this team, but, like, Hydreigon is never really running rocks. Donphan or Arcanine is probably going to be your only rocker. Just really depends on who you value more as a rocker in this matchup. In some things, Klefki is obviously a fantastic screens and spike setter. Glowking can actually make use of toxic spikes that it got in this generation. And no, Ogerpon can get spikes, but it's not one. In my opinion, it's not a mon that needs spikes, because like it's nice to have it, but like Cone Stone, in my opinion, is a better use of spikes because it's got that sturdy ability and having hazards. I think when you look at like the other three forms, spikes just don't make sense for the other ones to be viable use. But I do think there's good momentum with this team, a lot of momentum with it, in fact, and I just feel like they don't synergize the best. I think this is, again, one of our like lower teams, just because there's just nothing that's like has the picture for it, really. So, but what's your thoughts about the team?
I definitely agree with you here, especially on the Terra Ogerpon. Definitely a weird choice, and yeah, just your opponents aren't gonna be surprised by Terra every week, because it's always just gonna be Terra Grass, and especially in like an open Terra format where your Terramon can be any type. Like, that's just such a hindrance in my opinion, and that's what knocks this team down most for me. I will say though that the double regen is fun. Like Torn T, Slowking Galar definitely are going to pair nicely together. Galarian Slowking is very, very good in draft and just in general. Really like that mon. And yeah, just no ghost type also kind of makes this weak to Shadow Ball spam. And then again, without having open Terra, you won't be able to like you won't be able to pick a type that resists Ghost if you're going into a matchup with a strong Ghost type or something like that. And also, I feel like it's a little bit ground weak. I know Donphan's fine taking Earthquakes usually. You can switch into switch in Ogerpon, but or Hydreigon, but like Cottony's not going to be your ground answer. That's that's a little cup mon. You're not going to bring that to be your Earthquake answer. So yeah, this team, in my opinion, is one of the weaker ones in this division. I personally put it in D tier as the second weakest, right above Pokemon Master. What was your rating for it, or did you say?
I probably put this. No, I didn't. I think this one is just barely above Ed Essentials team. I think this is at least a 5.5. It doesn't have a lot of things. It has a few good mons on this team, but they're not paired well enough. They don't really have all the things that are going for it. That really screams like a team that's threatening. It has good Pokemon, but I just think it doesn't make it that good as a team.
And the community rated this one at 12, or tied for 11th place with a 7.2 out of 10. So I guess the community didn't put it at like the bottom like we did. So I guess people kind of see what could happen with this team. And again, the double regen is fun. Klefki is a pretty good support thing, and then Keldeo does have its buffs, so definitely this team does have potential, but me and Thriller both personally don't see everything with it. Maybe Wish can do something with this team, who knows, but that's going to be our rankings for this team. Next, we're going to be going on to the Boston Red Sky, coached by Brother Yubby. And right away, I see a Palafin here. And then right after that, Terapagos. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Terapagos first up, just because it's new. I haven't really seen what it does in draft, and it's an interesting mon in my opinion. We've got Baxcalibur, Alolan Ninetales, Jirachi, Skeledirge, Salazzle, Swampert, and Bramblegast. So yeah, like I said, interested in seeing Terapagos, Calm Mindsets, Terra Starstorm. Really glad it doesn't have Recover, because if it did, it'd be a nightmare. And also a spinner. It's also a spinner. So, yeah. We've got Palafin. Obviously, Palafin's good. I mean, it's always going to be going round 1. Or usually it's going to be going round 1. I know in UNPL, for some reason, it went like round 4, something like that. We got Baxcalibur, Alolan Ninetales, and that's a tried and true. I mean, that got banned right away on DLC 1 because it was just broken, so... Definitely something scary that we're gonna have to look out for. We got Jirachi here, and actually I think Jirachi fits very, very well on this team. Just wish passing, keeping everything healthy, like, yeah, just all these threats. If they can just receive wishes, it's gonna be nice. It's just, Jirachi's gonna be annoying, just like spamming Iron Head, flinching stuff. It could also even go for like a demon stored power setup set, stuff like that. I really like Jirachi, and well, I don't like being on the receiving end of Jirachi, I'll say. Being hit with Iron Heads isn't fun, but I think it's a very versatile mon in what it can do, and I feel like it's kind of going to be the glue that holds this team together. We've got Terra Ceruledge, or it's not Ceruledge, sorry, Skeledirge, a different Fire Ghost type. But Open Terra Skeledirge is also going to be kind of interesting to deal with. On an unaware mon, Open Terra is going to be kind of annoying. There are going to be ways around it, I know, but it's people are going to have to be creative in this matchup to get around an Open Terra Skeledirge. And then we have Salazzle. This thing is very annoying. I mainly play random battles, and I think I have been traumatized from seeing Salazzle in random battles too much. And we got Swampert. I'm really happy to see Swampert. The Gen 3 starters are my favorite trio starters, and seeing at least one of them get drafted is very cool to see. Swampert's good. It's got spikes, it's got flip turn, scald. Doesn't have recover yet, unfortunately, but I don't think it's ever going to get recover because that would be a little too much in my opinion. Then we got Bramblegast. I guess that's our other spinner aside from Terapagos. And I guess we didn't have a grass type yet, so Brother Yubby decided we're going for Bramblegast. But I mean, it does have Poltergeist now, so I guess it's not horrible anymore. Now it's just pretty bad. But no, overall, pretty cool team. I liked it. Definitely see the good stuff with it. We have got spikers, we've got stealth rockers, we've got spinners, and pretty balanced types in my opinion. What were your thoughts, Thriller?
I do think a lot of the typings balance each other out relatively well. Honestly, if you really look at his team, like there was like most of the things that he wanted to Terra were all Terra banned for the most part, so
Yeah.
he had limited options to really Terra, and I think he did grab probably the best option. Maybe another option could have been potentially the Swampert for a really good defensive typing to get rid of that major grass weakness, but obviously with keeping the one weakness, you'd still fine, but yeah, I think Skeledirge was the best pick, and Skeledirge's always been one of those most premier Terra captains in the format out there. A lot of leagues either allow it to Terra, ban it from Terra. It's just a lot of things out there. I don't think with Terra makes it too broken, because there's usually some common sets you see with Skeledirge, so be interesting if they stay try to go out of the common norm and try to go something different, or if they're going to just stay in the norm and just run Terra Fairy. I do think the Salazzle pick, though, is very weird. I don't know why they picked that along with Skeledirge. My only reason is that they maybe grabbed it for toxic shenanigans like you talked about, or maybe T-Spikes, but I feel like it's such a random pick, and I don't understand it really when you have a Skeledirge. Even though, yes, Skeledirge could Terra out of the fire typing, it's still a fire type from that point on. Terapagos, there's so much potential with that Pokemon that I think is really ungodly, and it is one of the only Pokemon that will take on multi-hit moves. I actually was playing this in a tournament with a friend, and I clicked triple axle and I hit all 3 times, but all 3 moves were not very effective because that was the very first attack I hit with it. So, first attack, especially with multi-hit moves, it will take every single move and make it not very effective, which I think makes this Pokemon even more broken with its form of multi-scale, which is just insane. I do think Spin will be rough to bit on there for it, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
But overall, I do think it's going to be very good. Obviously, Baxcalibur, if this could have been allowed to Terra, and he got that round 3, that would have been the biggest steal of the draft, especially someone that has used Terra Baxcalibur and gotten like 2 or 3 6Ls with it.
Oh, sure.
This is just a phenomenal Pokemon. I do think outside of Terra, it's a lot more manageable. It's not the most threatening. I do think with Ninetales, it's really good. I do think they have a lot of great usage to take away that steel weakness that they're going to really be handling. So, like, they have great fire types to use it. They have fantastic bulky waters, because Palafin can be a decent enough bulky water on its own if it wants, but they also have Swampert. And I do think the Brambleghast was a very good pickup, in my opinion. I think it's good. For 5 points, it's probably one of the best 5-point Pokemon out there. And it has so much more potential, especially with Infiltrator as well. Having that Wind Rider have immunity to things like Heat Wave and Hurricane, which are really good coverage moves that you see on a lot of Pokemon. Is like one of the only Pokemon that can beat Zapdos. A grass type that can beat a Zapdos. You don't hear that often.
Can't beat Brave Bird Zapdos.
Yeah. Or Drill Peck Zapdos.
Yeah.
But I do think what I think is the only quote-unquote weakness is then the stress of removal.
Yeah, for sure.
Pretty much probably mostly on the Brambleghast, and also the hazards. Like, you only have Terrapagos, which, let's be honest, is not going to run Stealth Rocks. You only have Swampert for rocks.
Swampert gets spikes too, right?
No, it did not, unfortunately.
I thought Swampert got spikes. Maybe, I guess I'm going crazy.
No, that was just the leak that everyone believed in, but then once the information came out, it was confirmed that it did not have spikes.
Ah, interesting.
But I do love Veil support. Yeah, I do love the Veil support from a little Ninetales, especially with Ninetales getting the buff in Snow as well, with the defense buff as well. I do think, again, it's a good team, but there's just some things that are a little lackluster that I think is my judge. Like, I think it's at least probably a 7.5 out of 10. Again, hazards are weak, removal is weak, but I love the option for setup with Torch Song under Veil, with Terra, and again, the setup options with Baxcalibur, Palafin, Terrapagos, even Jirachi under Veil. There's a lot of good potential with this team.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, like I've said before, I'm a huge fan of just like top heavy, very high point value stuff right off the bat, then just worrying about the budget later. But no, a lot of just really strong stuff here. Like, all you really need are like these first 4 to come every week, and you're set. I think there's just so much scary stuff. Like Ninetales, Alola, Baxcalibur on its own, like, those are great. And then you've also got Palafin on top of that. So it's just really a good team. And then you've just got a nice defensive backbone. Like I said, with the support from Jirachi, the Open Terra, Skeledirge. Then these bottom 3, honestly, if you see like a point where you would need them, they can come. They're there. But I like this team a lot. I personally gave this team an A tier. And the community also really liked this team. It's tied for 5th place with a 7.65 out of 10. But definitely, I think one of the better teams in this division for sure.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we run to the final team, the Salo
final
Shings.
team. Yup.
The Salo Shings by Samian.
I think it's pronounced Yam. I've asked this person like 2 or 3 times, and I always get it wrong, but I think it's Gam.
Jam, potato Sam, whatever you go with. Hopefully it's delicious though. But they have the Shinx team here with Terra Annihilate, which, I mean, there's no shocker to grab that with a Terra Captain. It's one of the most best broken Terra users in the format. Iron Bundle, one of those mons that literally has no drawback and just clicking buttons for free. Scizor, which is a fantastic Steel type, is a really good defogger, and Pivot Momentum Mon is also a priority, which is really nice. Tinglu gives you fantastic Rocker, Spiker, and again, an ability to lower special attack is phenomenal. Now, are they going to pull out the Viz strat and bring weakness policy Tinglu with Facade? Let's find out. We have the Thundurus, which is the other genie form of the other Thundurus, which I think is pretty decent. Not like as good as the other one, but it does have a lot more potential, especially getting that Supercell Slam for good, reliable physical coverage from the Electric types. It's not just Wild Charge, which is really nice. Tentacruel, which came back in the DLC, gives him a secondary Hazard Remover and Rapid Spin, but also T-Spikes, which is really nice. Lycanroc, a fantastic rock type, probably the best rock type in draft. It's not, even though there's argue for Garganacl with tough claws and just being able to hit so insanely strong. Goodra, which got so many tools this gen with especially things like knockoff and such. It's just a fantastic defensive dragon that can just be also offensively as well. And then my personal hot take, one of the best fairies in draft, probably in the top 5 if not at least top 10, being Gardevoir. It is such a fantastic Pokemon. Decently bulky on the Spadef side and can be used in the defensive, and just an overall decently enough, if not strong, offensive breaker for a lot of teams. If I had to point some stuff out with this team, it's again in that situation where I think Ting Lu is going to be the main hazard setter for this team, and it's probably going to be more so really reliant on Tentacruel to spin. I do think there's some instances where actually, wait, I don't remember. Did Scissor have Defog? Let me just double check that real quick. Scissor did keep Defog, which I think kinda can be okay, but without Roost, it's not the greatest. So I do think the hazard removal pressure is going to be on Cruel this season, which I don't think it's going to be necessarily a bad thing, because Cruel usually kind of was a mon that always would bring spin. It also got Flip Turn this generation, which is actually a really good thing on a base 100 speed tier, which Tentacruel does have. So it can kind of take advantage of speed tiers for fast momentum or slow momentum, which I think is really, really good. And overall, I think there's some good setup options with this team. I think Booster Energy is going to be really good with Bundle in certain matchups. Overall, this team does kind of balance out itself very well. Again, the hazard removal will be the only thing I think is a little weak, and hazard setting is just going to be a tiny bit weak for me personally, but I do think it's a strong team, especially when you have a Terra captain like Annihilate, which is going to be a massive threat. There's Terra Water, Terra Fairy, Terra Ghost. There's even things like maybe Terra Fire, which can take advantage of a lot of typings. It is going to be one of the most terrifying Pokemon to face this season, and it's definitely one of the strong teams for sure. So what are your thoughts on this team?
Oh man, this team, it just terrifies me. We see the first 2 picks right away. Annihilate with Open Terra and Iron Bundle. Right off the bat, that's just something really strong on the physical side, really strong on the special side. And just Iron Bundle already is something that is really difficult to switch into. Like, there's almost nothing that takes Hydro Pump plus Freeze Dry. I think is so scary. And then on top of that, you've got an Open Terra Annihilate that's also horrible to prep for. Like, you've got to guess what Terra type it's going to bring, and then it's most likely just going to be able to sit there, bulk up forever. You could go Resto Chesto with it, you could go whatever you want, and you're going to pretty much fall victim to a setup sweep Annihilate if you're not careful with it. So already, top 2 mons that require an insane amount of good prep and are very threatening. And then you've also got stuff like Scizor, really good priority user with Bullet Punch. It's also a potential removal option with Defog, but I personally just see it like really good with like Swords Dance or Choice Band, just bullet punching everything. Ting Lu, I know you were saying you were a little bit on the side of hazard setting not being great. In my opinion, Ting Lu is really kind of all you need. Like, really phenomenal spiker. It could just be like Earthquake, Ruination, Spikes, Whirlwind. You could do Stealth Rocks instead of Spikes. You could just go for like only 1 attack and then Stealth Rocks and Spikes. Or you could do, like you said, like the crazy weakness policy, Ting Lu set, stuff like that. It's weird. But in my opinion, it's just a really good hazard setter. And I feel like it's kind of all you need, especially with the potential of other stuff being able to hazard set too. Yeah, I think it's really strong. You've got Genie Form Thundurus, and it is also a pretty good like emergency disabler. Like, if something gets scary and starts setting up, Thundurus can just click Thunder Wave and potentially just stop a big threat in its tracks. With Prankster, it's pretty much always going to be going first, unless it's against a Dark type or something. So Thundurus, I think, is good. And then, like you said, if you want to try using Supercell Slam for like a physical Thundurus, that's an option. But it's also just still strong on the special side, pretty fast, and it's got its options. Tentacruel is really interesting, and I mean, I don't know. I guess it's a spinner. It's grounded poison. I honestly haven't really seen it that much since it recently got added into DLC 2. Then it's been absent from Gen 9. I'm very new to draft, so I'm not really I don't really know what Tentacruel does in draft. If it has like stuff that it did in Gen 7 or something like that, I'm not sure. But I could see it working here. I mean, it's a good bulky piece to have on this team. And then the Lycanroc Dusk, again, is something that really scares me. Another incredible priority user. Like you said, arguably the best rock type in draft. Just all this stuff on this team, like really good priority, like Terra Annihilate, just the Iron Bundle. Like you were saying, the Gardevoir being a really strong fairy type to have, especially at last pick too. I feel like that was a very clutch last pick. Yeah, in my opinion, this was the best team in the division. I really liked it, and I just think, again, really a big fan of like the top heavy stuff. No low pointers on this team. Like everything on this team is pretty high value. So I just think like Yam, if that's even how you pronounce the name, really budgeted very well and planned out just very nicely a good draft. And honestly, I think it's the best one in the division. I gave it S tier, top of S tier. What'd you rate it? Like, I forget.
I would probably rate it a solid, probably 9, honestly. Again, the only thing I find is going to be a little hard is just the hazard setting and a little bit of the removal, but everything else seems to just work for it. Like, everything, like, the only thing also you can kind of maybe knack on it is maybe being pretty ghost weak, especially with having Ting-Lu, but I think Udra can be able to suck up most of those special ghost type hits, and Ting-Lu can actually take on ghosts pretty decently well because of its ability. So I don't think it hurts that valve, but I do think it's probably the strongest team and probably the best team out of this one for me, just based off of the ranking and what we've talked about. So it's probably a solid 9 for me.
All right, sounds fair. And then the community rated this one slightly above the number 2 and 3 tie spot, with an 8.1 and then a bunch of other decimal place numbers. Basically, this is the best team according to the community. So yeah, that is going to be all of the teams in the Metagross division of the OGDL. If you made it all the way through, thank you so much for sitting through Thriller and I basically rambling for like, what's it been, like 2 hours now, something like that?
Oh, close to it.
Yeah. Hopefully everybody enjoyed what we had to say, was able to kind of see our thought processes behind ranking these teams. My tier list here, it is in order from like S tier is best, and then left to right is best to worst. So you do have my ranking of how I would rank the teams best to worst here. And I will make the community rankings public also, so people can see those. I think Thriller is also going to make rankings or a tier list or something and make that public too, so you'll be able to fully see our thoughts on it. And again, if you were one of the teams we ranked lower, this is just our opinions. We're not saying your teams are bad. Like I said at the beginning, I would personally give every team like at least a 5 or a 6 out of 10. I think there's potential for every team here in this division. And maybe I don't see the vision with how you drafted, but I'm not looking into your head, so I don't see what you're planning for how you're building your teams or anything like that. So yeah, that is pretty much all I have to say on this. Do you have any closing remarks or anything like that, Thriller?
No, I think we did the best we could. I'm definitely looking forward to this season. Hopefully we all have some good games, and hopefully not a lot of hacks and RNG plays a factor, and we make it a close race this season. And best of luck to everyone. And for everyone that gets a free win versus me, hopefully you enjoy the free win. So,
Alright, you heard it here from Thriller. Enjoy the free win from him, apparently. But yeah, best of luck to everybody. Please do argue your positions or opinions in the comments. Increase my interactions, or feel free to like ping me on Discord in the OGDL chat. I might not see it, but I won't mind if you ping me or anything like that. But yeah, feel free to argue your teams, argue your cases. If I missed anything or if I got anything wrong, I'm very sorry. I've had a pretty busy day, and I don't know everything about Pokemon off the top of my head, so I'm not the most qualified person to talk about everything. So if I got anything wrong, or if I might have missed anything, if you have like, what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry. If you have like reasons for drafting stuff that I didn't mention, feel free to let me know or anything like that. But yeah, that's gonna be it for our power rankings. again, thanks everybody for watching. If you made it all the way this far, and best of luck to everybody in the OGDL in our race to the playoffs. Hope to catch you all in my draft games that I upload to YouTube. Again, please check out Thriller. He's an awesome guy. I'm gonna leave links wherever I can to his channel. That's gonna be about it from us. Peace.
Bye.